Welcome to SatNuts, the podcast. I'm your host, Drew Klein, VP of CCOM Satellite Systems. What is a SatNut? SatNuts are the shrewd, engaging characters from the space and SATCOM business. Yes, they do exist. This podcast is where we discuss past decisions, current markets, and future endeavors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Isotropic Networks Incorporated. Isotropic is a global provider of satellite internet services and network management solutions. With the best uptime in the satellite industry, Isotropic delivers unrivaled certainty for high-risk, high-pressure operations in diverse industries such as oil and gas, maritime, and enterprise solutions. Isotropic is connecting the planet and continually raising the bar for what satellite connectivity can be. Visit their website at www.isotropic.network. That's www.isotropic.network. This is episode number 00001. That's right, this is the very first one. I am leaving enough numbers in front just in case we ever get to 100,000 episodes. Some are calling it delusional, I'm calling it optimism. Today's guests, our first guests, are the principals of a small but formidable family business out of Wisconsin. They're called Isotropic Networks. We're lucky to have the whole family here join us. Hank, founder, CEO, his wife Lynn, president, and their son Ryan, director of mission assurance. They're all smart, they're all fun. We've had a great business relationship with them over the years, and we had a great short chat about SATCOM life in the time of COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, Hank, Lynn, Ryan, the Zbierski family, Isotropic Networks. Hank, Ryan, Lynn, good to have you here. I'm not sure how much you can talk about it, but why in God's name did this antenna manufacturer decide to name themselves after you guys, after you've been in the business almost 30 years? Have you gotten to the bottom of this at all?
Yeah, they liked the name. They thought it wouldn't make a difference to anybody. But believe it or not, it's the worst name in the world for an antenna manufacturer. It's a perfect name for a service provider, but not an antenna manufacturer. So we're involved in some negotiations with them because we own the trademark. So,
I mean, it would be like me, building an airline engine and calling it Boeing and trying to get that to like slip it through there. It just seems like an odd thing to have to deal with. I guess it's something you've been dealing with for a couple of years at this point, right?
Yes, and we are dealing with it.
Yeah. That's it's unfortunately one of those things that we don't have to deal with, but one of the things that we're dealing with now is this bloody coronavirus. How do you guys see it affecting our business?
Well, it's affecting our business a little bit. Naturally, some of our, we're as diverse as we are, we still do have clients that have suspended services, or we've been proactive and we began discounting a lot of our clients because we know we have to help them get through this. So we've begun discounting considerably. We've had a few people in a few markets, for example, oil and gas. We've had a few people shut down, and there's a couple have gone bankrupt. In the maritime, we've had people suspend service. They're paying for a heartbeat, but we've discounted them considerably. But then some of our emergency response, public safety, NGO, and charitable work is expanding. And then we're coming up with some little satellite delivered Wi-Fi hotspots around the country because we know there will always be underserved and unserved areas. So we've been moving into those markets, providing people connectivity at a discounted rate to help them get through this.
Do you see? I mean, I know Ryan. I know you're a firefighter. And I know that you guys have been involved in many different verticals. Isotropic has been involved in many different verticals. Do you see telemedicine making a big play here in this post-COVID society that we're living in?
Yeah, I think there's a need for it now, and it's going to be even more of a need for it in the future. It's definitely the pandemic is definitely going to change the way we operate across many industries, and telemedicine is one of those that I think we'll see the most immediate change in how they operate. And VSAT has a great fit for that. So we see it now with some of the mobile CT scanners, mobile telemedicine, or telemedicine, I should say. And so we see that now, but I think we're going to start seeing that more and more. Hospitals and doctors' offices, in most cases and historically, are the places that the physical locations that hold the virus, hold the infection. It's where the sick people go. So in the future, anytime you can limit your exposure to that when you are feeling ill or need to consult with a medical professional, telemedicine is definitely going to be the first choice, I think. And so the connectivity for that is really going to be essential.
What do you see on the ground in Wisconsin? I know every state is, obviously New York is getting obliterated, but it seems like most, and Louisiana is having some issues. But what's going on in Wisconsin? Is there a lot of, I would say, pullback towards this lockdown? Is there a lot of people who are fighting it, or are people kind of staying at home and going about their home business?
Well, this is Wisconsin. We always have beer and brats on hand, so we don't need to go too many places too often. As a company, we're still functioning. All of our facilities, every one of our facilities is sanitized. We use negative ion and ozone generators to keep the environment clean. It kills viruses, kills bacteria. So we've been very fortunate not to have any issues here. We were doing this long before the coronavirus hit. But Wisconsin, as a state in general, it's slowed down considerably.
Yeah, and you have cheese, and unfortunately, if the NFL season doesn't come back, I mean that's pretty much 50% of your economy, right? Is the Green Bay Packers.
You got it.
Hank, I know you're first generation American. Your parents came to the States in the 50s, and you were born in the States though, right, Hank?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
First one born here.
Yeah. And so I'm a first generation Canadian. My parents are, I call them last generation Euros. What lessons did your parents, leave with you? Are your parents still around, by the way?
No, my parents, my father passed in 1998. My mother passed away in 2018. They taught me a lot. I mean, they went through the war. My mother witnessed when the Germans invaded Poland. She was there that day and saw it happen. And they were prisoners of war during World War II. But, they taught me a lot of simple, wonderful things. Don't ever take yourself too seriously. Don't ever forget where you came from. And always be prepared, because you don't know what's going to hit you.
Yeah, it seems like we're dealing with this right now. And, Ryan and I, how old are you now?
38.
Yeah, I'm 42. So we're dealing with about the same thing. And my biggest fear is for, my kids. My son Ben's is turning 16 this week, and I don't really worry about my generation, or sorry, Hank and Lynn, your generation. I'm worried more about our kids. It seems like they're the ones who are going to have to deal with the brunt of this. I don't want to call it the equivalent of a 1939, Nazis invading Poland, but this is a seminal, event that we're dealing with right now. And I'm a little afraid for my kids. Do you have any of that similar feeling down there, or is it just my paranoia?
No, it's we have very, very similar feelings. You think about it, before you knew who your enemy was, but here you have no certainty as far as who is the enemy. It's an invisible enemy. Is it somewhere you've been? Is it someone you've met? Is it the air you breathe? It's invisible. We don't know who it is, and that's how dealing with that is very, very difficult for people.
And I wonder also, like, how they might, maybe in the future might use satellite, our business, as a way of controlling or monitoring traffic of people. And, I'm hearing all these stories about Google and Apple getting together and putting software on our phones to let us know that if we've been in contact with somebody who has coronavirus, and then forcing us to isolate. I mean, it's like a brave new world. It's really, without getting into too much of the conspiracy, there's a lot of strange things that might be coming about in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and you've got to, think about everybody, there are certain people, there's a mentality out there that let's take something when there's fear in people, let's instill more fear in them so that we can control things and we can figure out a way to make money off of it.
Yeah.
We're working on some things now, though, that are not as controlling, but with modified body scanning techniques that can especially do temperature when people walk through. Because what we need to do, or what someone needs to do, is be able to analyze this and scan people more en masse instead of individually. Let people just keep walking through an area and be scanned. And that's going to happen everywhere in remote areas also. And that's where we're providing the satellite play for that. We're working with a technology company right now to develop that product.
Yeah, they have those at the airports in China. Every time I would walk in there, they would have full temperature scans. I'm surprised we haven't done that yet in our country, or at least in North America. We haven't seen that. I think it's a cultural thing. There's a real cultural difference between us and the Far East in terms of sequestering yourself from others, from viruses. They have a little more experience in dealing with that than we do, I guess.
Yes, they do. It happens much more often out there. And truthfully, the manufacturers of this equipment are all Asia based. They are way ahead of us on that.
So Ryan, what's it like working for? I mean, I work for my old man. You've been working for your old man for a long time. What's it like to be in that position where your boss is your dad?
Yeah, quick correction. I work for my young man. I should go on record for the record. No, working for your parents is great. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I get to spend every day with them. Some people would say you spend every day with your parents, and some people don't get to see their parents that often, and I get to spend every day with them and talking to them, and any conversation from advice on looking at a real estate or something to do with satellite, anywhere in between. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. My friends tease me a lot if I get invited to go on a trip or something. I let them know I have to ask my mom if I can take the day off, and it's usually stirs up a good, I say it without thinking about it, and that stirs up a good laugh. But I couldn't think of two better mentors to work for and work with. So I'm very honored and very fortunate. And, I have a lot of my friends that ask if we're hiring or if they can come work for us outside of being able to work with the parents. The company that they've built is phenomenal and just a great place to work as well.
Yeah, I mean, ISO is a real, model company. I mean, almost 30 years in the business, and from what I remember hearing or talking with you, Hank, about, was that you still have your first employee and you still have your first customer, which is such a rare and unique feature for a company to have. I mean, how many companies have that? Is that tells you a lot about the work environment you're dealing with there.
Yeah, we try to make it unique. We try to do it better. And actually, every day we try to make it better. We don't believe in limitations. We're kind of never satisfied. It's not a constant drive, but it's a constant effort to improve everything we do. I think part of it, though, is our philosophy is a little different. I admired Jack Welch at GE. He did a wonderful job there. But I never really believed in shareholders first. At Isotropic here, we believe in client first, the customer first, and that takes care of everybody else. Plus, we don't have to worry about shareholders. We don't have them.
Hank, who was your first boss? I mean, you must have had a boss at some point in your life. Who was it?
Oh, my very first job out of college, I got into the agricultural business, agricultural equipment manufacturer, and I worked directly for the owner.
Was he a
And
prick?
was he ever? Yes, he was tough on me. He was tough. I mean, this is the mid 70s, and it was nothing for him to call me at home at night, yelling about things, yelling about other people. You know, it was something. But he taught me a tremendous amount, and then he went and took over another company, and it was just a wonderful mentor. I was transferred 5 times in 7 years. As he would acquire another business, I would be transferred out there to run it and get things going, and it just taught me tremendous things.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by CCOM Satellite Systems. CCOM is a pioneer and world leader in the mobile auto-pointing satellite antenna business. The company has sold more than 9,000 systems into over 100 countries. The product line includes vehicle-mounted driveaways, transportable case-based flyaways, backpack man-pack antennas, and fixed motorized products. All come with CCOM's proprietary iNet View controller system, which enables users to find broadband via satellite with just the push of a button. CCOM is also in late-stage development, partnered with the University of Waterloo, of a revolutionary Ka-band electronically steerable phased array antenna technology that has the potential to forever change the antenna business. The company is publicly traded on the Canadian Venture Exchange under the symbol CMI and on the US OTC under the symbol CYSNF. Visit the website at www.c-comsat.com. That's www.c-comsat.com. Yeah, that's important to have a good first boss, or at least an interesting first boss. One of the things that, drew me to you, Hank, was that we have even though we're a full generation apart, we both started also in similar businesses because we were both in the commodity markets for many years. What was your involvement in the commodity business, specifically the commodity trading business? And were you around in the open outcry days of the pits in Chicago? What was that like?
Oh, yes. Well, I owned an introducing brokerage firm that I started. And then my life took some different turns, and I actually ended up working for and becoming a partner in an FCM, a Futures Commission Merchant, a full clearing member of the Board of Trade in the MERC. So, I began playing with broadcasting back then. And I can tell you, I was very involved in the open outcry. And then I delivered the first electronic order to the floor of the Board of Trade on President's Day, 1991, when the exchanges were closed for the holiday. We did testing, and I delivered the first order to the floor. And I said, I need to get out of this business because it's going to go all electronic. So
you were partly responsible for the downfall of those open outcry markets, is what you're saying.
Oh, yes. And never, if I ever tell you about a commodity trade or a stock trade I'm doing, fade me.
Do the opposite. You're it's such a unique market. People who invest in stocks think they understand commodities, and vice versa. And it's really a totally different market. And that kind of, it pulls me a little bit, towards what I also wanted to talk about a little bit was just the investment that's going on in our industry in the satellite business. It seems like and I've only been in this business 10 years, so I only know what I've read, but it seems like right now we're seeing a lot of money being poured in, huge dollars, like a golden age of the satellite business that we're entering, with all of these big machers, from Bezos to Zuckerberg to Weiler to Elon Musk, all pouring money into our business. Do you think we're headed into some kind of a bubble that will be positive for us, or are we seeing the effects of this bubble popping already with the OneWebs of this world blowing up, and What's your perspective on that? What do you see?
Well, satellite is sexy right now, so that's why all that money is available. And you've got, if you look at the generation that's out there right now, there's a lot of people that have made money primarily because their parents died. You know, we're going through the second generation of folks whose parents had life insurance. So there's a lot of crazy money out there with that people are investing. But you know, the satellite play, the LEO play, nobody's been able to do it right yet. I think the only people really, you know, there are stand-up folks in this are the folks at Telesat. They're putting their own money into it, and they're doing it right. It's going to take a little while. You have to remember, there's never going to be enough bandwidth. It's a perfect example right now with everybody working from home and what's happening. So it's going to, you know, there's definitely going to be a need and a demand for the product. But what's really where the big money is right now is in launch vehicles. You know, Bezos and Musk and, you know, Aerojet Rocketdyne, all these people are building the rockets. And if you drill down really deep and look at that industry, why is it? Well, you know, we have a new we have the Space Force now, you know, Space Command or the Space Force that is responsible for outer space. And the U.S. has funded a tremendous amount of activity there. I mean,
so maybe we might be heading towards a second generation, you know, space industry is what you are seeing or saying.
Exactly. I just saw that. I think last Friday, Virgin Orbit was awarded I believe a $35 million contract, and it's just experimental launches.
Yeah.
They're just throwing stuff, you know, launching things into space just to see how it works. I believe I was reading an article on Space Command. They want to be able to have at least 48 launches on demand.
Wow. You know, it's really changing from the way it used to be. I mean, from the way it is now, whether you're talking about, you know, enormous high cost geo satellites versus going into these low cost shoebox size LEO satellites that they're launching. And I mean, the whole industry is going to change in the next 5 years.
Oh, it is. I mean, I look at now with what we're doing with the geos, which is working perfectly. It's wonderful, but I see the day when we may have a client that, like we have clients right now, one corporate network has 400 sites. They may want to, may be cost effective for them to have their own constellation.
Wow. Are you able to fly now, Hank? Because I know you have a plane and you guys fly everywhere. Are you able to go visit your customers still amidst this lockdown, or is that not even possible?
We were just in the air on Tuesday. No, it was Monday. We went to Washington, D.C., and then up to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and back. And it's just surreal. There was one airliner, one military, one helicopter on the ground the whole time. And we landed in Manassas, Virginia, and there was no other aircraft on the ground. Only, and one controller, I think at Cleveland Center, was handling everything in the Midwest, where there's normally, you know, they'll switch you over to 3 people. It was one guy handling everything. Wow. It's a whole different ballgame. But I love, we're still able to fly, and we do the same thing. We have a filtration system that sanitizes the interior of the aircraft before we go. So everything's always in a clean environment. I want to take advantage of a lot now because fuel prices have dropped unbelievably.
And continue to drop today. There was a huge build in the EIA numbers. So something like it's almost becoming too expensive to even store the oil at this point. So if you have a ability to store fuel, you can probably make a lot of money because even though the price of oil is going down.
Yes.
And it's like $19 a barrel or something this morning. I was reading one of the many articles I read about the economy, and one guy was saying $6 a barrel oil is coming, and that scared the ever living piss out of me, because I know that if we're talking, $5 to $10 a barrel oil, what's our economy going to look like?
Oh, it's going to be devastating. Devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm nervous for my family on this, because, if we're seeing continuing cratering of prices, and there's only so much, the government can do in terms of pouring trillions and trillions of dollars into the economy before inflation really starts to take over. I mean, we're already seeing it in the price of gold, and reaching record highs in almost every currency, and so again, I, I'm really, really nervous as to the effect, not just on our industry, but for our families. So, it's not very positive right now. I mean, there's so many things that are unprecedented happening right now. We just don't know. There's so much uncertainty. That's really, the big issue is the uncertainty that we're facing.
Yes. Well, I'm worried about foodstuffs also, with this last Smithfield Foods, with that closing up that big pork producing plant in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I mean, just once all these plants get back into operation, just getting it back into getting the supply chain going it's going to take quite a bit of time. I mean, and I see we may have tremendous drops in commodities, drops in a lot of other prices, but I could see food, which is a true necessity, it might skyrocket.
Yeah, we have a bad growing season this year, and then yeah, for sure you could see corn and beans and wheat and cattle and hogs, all of which have taken a beating lately, possibly head back up for sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Lynn. How's it going?
Good, 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 good.
The client trader her's coming out. She's already telling us to buy some calls.
Are you able to see?
What do you think of the D1 lean hogs?
Hey man, I think I saw them. They were at like $44 a pound or something. It's or 44 cents a pound. I don't remember seeing them that low.
50 cents on the dollar.
Everything's down today.
Yeah.
Are you able to see, Lynn? Are you able to go out to Florida and see Melissa at all, or is she coming up, or is she where's she?
She's in Florida. We
Yes.
are pretty much homebound right now. We're trying to follow the guidelines for most things, unless we have something emergency like.
So you're not trying to get her to come to Wisconsin. You're not going to visit her in Florida. I guess that's not possible.
Well, she's got her two paranoid retrievers. Yeah, they're crazy. I don't want to bring them up here.
Any chance you guys will come up to Ottawa and do a little horse trading like we saw a few years ago? You came up here, and Melissa was very sweet. She took my nieces out to Ian Miller's equestrian, whatever that place is. The horse. I hate horses, so I don't know. But she took them there. She took my nieces there and showed them these monstrous, crazy looking horses. That's a passion only for Melissa, or is that for your whole family? Like, what's the interest in horses there?
It's I think it's kind of for the whole family.
It's the whole family. Yep.
It's led to a lot of different things in our lives, and yes, as soon as the border opens, we will be happy to return to Canada.
Yeah. As soon as that bloody border opens, damn COVID. Well, I just wanted to say before we close out, because we're hitting about the 30-minute mark. So Isotropic is a wonderful family business. CCOM has been working with you guys now for more than a decade. We have a great partnership, a loyal following, and thank you very much, Hank, Ryan, Lynn, for joining us on the podcast today. And anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yes. Now that we finished, wash your hands.
Wash your face and don't touch your hands. That's what I've been telling everybody.
All right.
All right, guys. Hope to see you in the summer, and hope everything continues to move forward for all of us. And stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank
you.
Say hi to your dad.
Sure will. Take care, guys.
Subscribe to SatNuts, the podcast. Also, rate and review on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, and anywhere fine podcasts are downloaded for free. Audio engineering provided by Ben Klein. Music provided by Bacon Jew. Special thanks to the entire CCOM staff. Stay nuts, everybody.